Welcome to Table Talk with Toddy, a podcast for millennials where we bring real life topics on the table for real talk. I am your host, Natasha Toddy Weston, lifestyle entrepreneur and 3 times best-selling author. I'm a sucker for business, branding, and self-development, but I created this space to escape from the worlds we create for ourselves on the daily. Table Talk with Toddy is the epitome of having the girl next door right in your back pocket. So kick back, pour up, and join me each week for real talk, current events, and powerful conversations about life, business, and all that other ish. What up, everybody? It is me, Natasha Toddy Weston. Welcome back to the Table Talk with Toddy podcast. Today is Tuesday, March 6, 2018, and this is episode number 35. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you to all of my oldies but goodies for tuning in and thinking it not robbery to spend some more time with me this week. And if you are new here and listening for the very first time, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time, and I am honored that you found your way over here to Table Talk with Toddy, where we bring real life topics on the table for real talk. Now, I know you could be anywhere in podcast land, but the fact that you decided to join me today, what up? And so, guys, I hope you have had an amazing week since we last hung out. I'm excited about today's show. We're going to keep the ball rolling with the new format that we have. I got a lot of great feedback from you guys, and so thank you. You know, y'all are like the friends that I don't have. Yeah, y'all are like the friends that I don't have. I could talk to y'all, I could be real with y'all, and know that y'all are going to be somewhere in digital land rooting me on, and I just appreciate that. I can't say that enough. And so last week we talked about Wakanda, we talked about what else did we talk about last week? We talked about my new equipment. Oh, and so let me go ahead and just tell y'all to deal with the microphone. So I know I was like all, telling y'all about this new microphone. I told y'all that last week's episode was, and y'all hear that dog in the background trying to mess up my mojo today. Y'all hear that? But anyway, I told y'all that I was recording last week's episode on my new microphone. Well, let me tell y'all what happened, right? Y'all, the microphone wasn't working in the first place. Can y'all believe that? So the company had to send me what is called a splinter because I couldn't just plug the microphone into my laptop like, normal. You would think that you would be able to. So they had to send me a splinter to connect to the microphone, to connect to my MacBook Pro. But now we are on and popping, boo. So this sound quality should sound even better than what I was recording on before, which was just my laptop apparently. But we're going to see. Hopefully the sound quality sounds amazing, and hopefully, we are, good to go. Like that's the hope. That's the hope. So if you are a true fan of this show, I'm gonna need you to pray with me right now and pray with me that we make it through episode 35. But anyway, welcome back to the show, guys. Again, last week we talked about the microphone. We talked about Wakanda. We talked about my Twitter rant, which, by the way, y'all, I did not have one last week. Before I got on here today, I went to check because I couldn't recall anything that I ranted about. I guess I just had a really good week. So I don't think I had any Twitter rants worth talking about. Nothing out of the ordinary. And so we talked about Drake's God's Plan, Black Panther. We talked about, my slight obsession with the Migos. And yeah, and that was the show. And it was a great show. We had a great amount of downloads, which is amazing because my goal is to definitely take this podcast to another level and get more people involved here with our community. And so I've got something that I want to run by you guys, but I'm not going to run it by you quite yet. So just stay tuned for that. The best way to keep in contact with me is to subscribe to this podcast. So after you're done listening, or you can hit pause right now, go and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any upcoming shows, because I got a lot of great stuff for you guys. Okay, so that was our recap. Let's talk about what is on my table this week. So y'all, I'm so excited. And like, y'all, by no means necessary am I trying to make this about me, but y'all, I had a bomb week, okay? Last night rather, I wrapped my first official beauty brand partnership with a beauty brand that reached out to me because they know I'm all about women's empowerment. They know that I'm all for girl power. And so they came out with this collection, and it's based off of girl power, obviously. And they thought that I would be a good addition to the collection. And so they reached out to me to find out if I would help them to spread the word on International Women's Day, which is coming up this Thursday. And so that was exciting. I actually just took the photos yesterday evening. And the most exciting part, I think, about all of it is that it was powered by my new production company, Tot Spot Productions. So, we were able to take the photos, edit them and everything, and the company absolutely loved them. And so I can't wait for you guys to see the final outcome of the shoot yesterday. So make sure you're following me on Instagram and Facebook at Official Toddy. Because Thursday is going to be pretty lit. Okay, so that's one thing that's been on my table this week. I almost didn't think that the shoot was going to get done because I had ordered some new lighting equipment because, these are more like beauty shots, and the lighting equipment that I had was a little bit too harsh. And so I had already planned on getting getting these lights, but it was, more, I was more pressed to do it when I got this opportunity. And I wanted to make sure that I delivered, the best quality of quality for future brand opportunities, right? And so always, make those investments in any opportunity that you get, because you never know where it could take you. Another thing, this past weekend, y'all, I was invited to a friend's private birthday dinner here in Charleston. And this was actually the first, formal event that I've been to here in a very long time. Like, I couldn't even tell you when was the last time, but there was something different about this experience, and I shared it on social media right after the event. This was the first time since moving back to Charleston that I actually was in a room with just pure positivity, right? It was like, you didn't feel like people were side-eyeing you. Even if they were, I didn't notice. And it was just so nice to see, like, everybody in the room almost were Black business owners, y'all. And they got up and they spoke about Courtney. And, they just said how much she inspired them, how much she pushed them. And the thing is, y'all, that they're all in the same industry. They all pretty much have the same type of business. But it was just so amazing to see how, we were able to get together, love on each other, and speak positive things in each other's lives. And I just think we need more of that. And I guess Charleston isn't a small city, but I guess wherever you come from, sometimes it can feel like the people that live right in your city don't support you. It could feel like, things are harder for you where you live than they would be if you moved to another city. And I guess I did things differently because, I started my business in New York City, right? I was out there to do internships, and I ended up starting my business. And my first idea was to start a black tie event, because that's all we went to in New York, like red carpets and coat checks, which we don't have down here. And, so naturally I wanted to bring some of the vibes from NYC down south. So I planned this big event, and I talk about this in my first book. So if you have not read it, the whole last chapter is dedicated to the story. So I'm going to try to keep it brief, y'all. But basically I, came up with the idea to do like an adult style prom. This is before people were even thinking about doing this, y'all. Like, seriously, I feel like I invented this. Okay. But so I came up with this event called A Master Swag, and I basically planned it out as a formal prom style event. Well, planned it out, had it in the newspaper, everything, and it flopped. Nobody showed up. Barely my family showed up. Literally barely my family showed up. And it was a very discouraging time for me because I felt like I had supported so many of the, people who were in the city doing things over the years. And then here we are, nobody shows up to my event, nobody supports my event. So I felt really crazy. And for a long time, I kind of resented my city and I didn't want anything to do with them. I just didn't want to share my journey with them anymore because I felt like they weren't giving me the same type of support. So I say all of that to say, to be in a room in the same city where I grew up in and to see Black people who are business owners be so supportive and so loving, and you could tell it was genuine, that was a really amazing feeling. It kind of gave me a little bit of hope, right? So that is something else that I did this week. Let me see what else is on my table this week. That's pretty much it, guys. I guess worth talking about. So I'm really excited about, where things are going. And I'm glad that at the same time, even though I've transitioned quite a bit in the last few years, that you guys have continued to follow and support and essentially be motivated and inspired. And that's my ultimate goal. And then, so I just got off the phone before I started recording the show today with a young lady who I had reached out to, almost 4 or 5 years ago when I was planning the Confessions of an Ambitious Girl weekend. Well, she was an event planner in Colombia, and we had kind of partnered, and she would pretty much, plan the event and things like that. Well, we kind of lost connection over the years, and recently she reached out to me with an opportunity to speak at her event in Charlotte. Now, I have not been accepting speaking engagements for over a year now, really. Like, I just, honestly, I could be honest with y'all, right? Honestly, I was getting bored with speaking, because I felt like the topics were just so generic. Every event was the same. And I'm just, I just got really bored. And if you guys know me or if you figured it out by now, when I get bored, I move on. And that's probably why I'm single. But anyway, so I stopped putting out calls for speaking and things like that. I just needed a break from it. So when she reached out to me, I was still not certain if I would accept, even though Charlotte is not far from me. I wasn't certain. I just didn't want to go to another event and, it was kind of blah. Okay. So anyway, we arranged a call and we had that call this morning, and she said something that made me feel really amazing. And I wanted to share it with you guys, and I'm glad I remembered to share it. But she said that she had been sitting on this event idea for a long time. And, it was something that she really wanted to put together. But she was just, in her own way. And she said that I said something on my social media, I think last week, and I wrote it down so I didn't forget. And I want to bring it back up because I pray that it helps somebody that's listening. But she took last week's episode. She saw the quote that I pulled where I basically said I went through a lot of back doors to get in the room. And that is what kind of essentially pushed her to going ahead and planning out this event. That made me feel good because I don't feel like we talk enough about those things. Sometimes we see successful people and we just kind of see the surface layer of what they do or what they've accomplished, but we don't really realize the back doors that they had to take. And I think we need to talk about that more. So she said that's the perspective she wants me to speak about on the panel. So I accepted the speaking engagement. So if you are in Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm going to be in your city on April 28th, and I'll be sharing more information about the event where you can get tickets and all of that good stuff on my social media very soon. So make sure you are connected with me there. So, this also goes to show that you never know who's watching, and you never know what part of your story is going to be valuable to someone else. So don't ever shy away from being who you are, and don't be embarrassed about your story, because there's somebody somewhere that is going through the same thing or worse, and it may just take, you saying something that's your truth to free them from whatever it is that they are experiencing. So that's what's on my table this week, guys. Make sure you hit me up on Twitter at official Toddy, hashtag Table Talk with Toddy, because I still haven't come up with the hashtag for this yet. Somebody tweet me and remind me in the middle of the week next week, okay? Before we put out episode 36, please somebody let me know and remind me so that we can do this thing, okay? Let me know on Twitter what is on your table this week so that I can give you my solicited advice, because if you post it, that means you want to hear what I have to say. And sometimes it may not be what you want to hear, but listen, we're besties, right? So no hard feelings. Same thing. I want y'all to tell me the truth. I want y'all to, give me some feedback on what was on my table this week. Were you inspired? What did you do this week? Did you ask for what you wanted? Let me know on Twitter @officialtoddy, #Table Talk with Toddy. Now, can y'all believe I do not have a Twitter rant this week? Can y'all believe it? I did not rant about anything on Twitter this week. And I don't know if it was because I was just busy. And, they say the idle mind is the devil's workshop. I didn't have time for the devil this week because things were just going way too good. So I don't have a Twitter rant this week. So y'all could take a little break from my rants. I'm sure I may have one this week. So, follow me on Twitter @officialtoddy for all of those rant shenanigans. Table Talk Roundup. Table Talk Roundup. So I honestly, y'all, besides the Oscars, I don't know what has happened this week. And I didn't even watch the Oscars. I just know I saw Tiffany Haddish jumping over the red tape or something to meet some celebrity. I don't know, but I saw the pictures and I thought it was very funny. And that Tiffany Haddish wore the same dress 3 times, which I think is just so brave. Speaking of Tiffany Haddish, I am finally reading her book, The Last Black Unicorn. And I actually started reading it via audiobook when I first ordered the book, and it had me drawn, okay? Like, this book kind of reminds me of Charlamagne's book, Black Privilege. I couldn't put it down. So when I'm done recording this podcast, I'm definitely going back to try to finish reading that book today. But besides that, that's like the only thing that caught my attention this week. I can't really tell y'all anything else that has happened. I'm praying for Rick Ross. I just actually spoke to my sister about Rick Ross a couple weeks ago. I was like, I wonder when he's going to put out some new music. And then sadly, we get all these reports the other day that he, had a heart attack, and we don't know if it's true or not. Do we ever with the internet, right? Some people say he was sick. Some people said he's fine. What do we know, right? What do we know? But prayers out for Rick Ross. I really like him, and I pray that he has a speedy recovery. But let me know what roundup things you want on the table during the week. So you could always tweet me, tag me in things on Instagram and Facebook, and anything that captures my attention, I would definitely jot it down, as I do with everything else for the show throughout the week. And so this question that I'm getting ready to share with you guys actually ties into what I wanted to give you for the Table Talk takeaway this week, okay? So let me first kind of give you a synopsis of the question that she asked. So she basically stated that she had a discussion with a friend of hers the other day, and that the friend posted something like an angry post, kind of like a rant, after no one showed up to his event, including, the people that told him they would be at his event. And she knows that I've shared my story, but she wants to know like what types of advice that she could give him as far as dealing with non-supportive. So let's go there, guys. Let's talk really quickly. I'm not going to dig into this too deep because the advice is pretty simple, right? So unsupportive people, we all have them at every single stage in our journey, literally. I don't care if you are just opening the doors to a new business, or I don't care if you've been in business for 25 or 30 years, you're always going to be dealing with unsupportive people. But here's the thing. As with everything else in life that has boundaries, so do unsupportive people. We can have boundaries from unsupportive people. Now, unsupportive people can also teach you a lot of great lessons, right? So sometimes instead of just saying, oh, this person was unsupportive, or, they didn't show up for my event, or they didn't buy my book, then ask yourself, the question is to why they didn't do it. Now, a lot of times I will say it has nothing to do with you. In most cases, it never does. However, sometimes it's good to evaluate why those people aren't supporting. Sometimes it could be because they just don't have the money. Maybe it could be they don't have the transportation to get to your event. Maybe it could be that your brand isn't for them. And I think that's a big one, especially for entrepreneurs, is sometimes we create businesses for the people around us, and 9 times out of 10, it is never for them in the first place. And so when they don't support us, we naturally get upset and rant and rave and feel like those people fall into the unsupportive category, when in fact, they were never your ideal customer or client to begin with, right? And so I don't want to go into a whole business tangent because, this isn't necessarily a business podcast, but I will say that sometimes before you jump off and say that someone is being unsupportive, first find out why, because the reasons why could definitely fall into the, collecting research category where you could improve what it is that they didn't support. Granted, they are the person that your business or idea or whatever is for. Now, on the flip side of things, those unsupported people that you just know straight up, they're just purposely not supporting you, then you definitely have the freedom to make boundaries. Don't exhaust too much energy in the unsupportive, because those are not your people, right? Those are not your people, okay? So focus on the people who do support you. And I think in this whole era where we just get caught up in the numbers, sometimes we can feel like, okay, well, if I've got 200 followers on Instagram and none of them are supporting me, then they're just unsupportive. Well, they may not be your audience, and you may need to shift your focus a little bit on the people who do need what you have to offer. And so, don't let unsupportive people stop you from doing things. Everything is trial and error, man. Like that story I just told y'all earlier in the show about my event. Get this, like, even if they don't support you, especially if you're doing something innovative, at some point they're going to hop on board. And sometimes it's not going to be, for your event, because right after nobody showed up to mine, like a couple of months later, everybody was having adult proms, and now you see them everywhere. And I'm not saying that I was, the brain behind that whole concept, but, sometimes God just has a way of allowing non-supportive people to not support you so that you can either better your idea, better your business, or it's a sign that maybe this isn't what God intended for you in the first place. And so unsupportive people, don't give them too much energy. Take what you can from the situation, tweak it, or move on. But unsupportive people don't need, they don't need to be the whole source of, you ranting and raving on Facebook, because at the end of the day, it's still not a good look, unless your business or brand is about ranting, which some people's are. But don't give them the power to think that what you're doing is based off of their support. Move on to the people who do support you, love on them, give them what they need, offer them value, and you'll be amazed at how that would duplicate into more support. So I hope that answered the listener's question about, how to deal with unsupported people. Now, as far as family is family. I've got family that still doesn't know what I do to this day. They're not interested in knowing what I do to this day. So when I'm around them, I don't share what I do because it's not something they're interested in. That doesn't mean they don't love me. That doesn't mean they don't necessarily support me. It's just not something that, they're essentially going to benefit from in their lives at this point. And you have to just learn to still be confident in what you're doing, even if those people around you don't support you. It's so many ways now to get in supportive circles. And so unsupportive people should be non-factors. Like Evelyn from Basketball Wives says, non-factors. Okay? Don't exhaust your energy on unsupported people. Instead, try to replace those people and filter out those people with supportive people. I meet a lot of people online who are the most supportive people to date in my circle or in my network, and I've never met them in person a day in my life. So it's very easy nowadays to filter out those unsupportive and get those supportive people in so y'all can root each other on, keep it moving, and make the coins, because that's the end goal, right? Okay, so that's going to take me into today's Table Talk takeaway. And today I want you to take away this. Take the first step and figure it out along the way. Do not get it twisted, y'all. Myself included. We're all on a journey, trial and error, figuring things out. It may look nice and polished on my IG, but don't get it twisted. I always tell y'all this. I'm just figuring it out as I go. Now, the difference between me and maybe you or someone else that may be sitting on an idea or may be afraid to take a leap of faith is that I'm actually a daring person. If I get an idea tomorrow, now, obviously, my risks are pretty calculated, but for the most part, I'm not going to sit on an idea that can be executed this week this week and wait until December to, execute it. I'm just not going to do that, because I feel like timing is everything. And sometimes if you procrastinate too much, you'll miss the mark. You'll miss the opportunity that will come if you just take the first step. So take the first step and figure it out along the way. Do not let people tell you need to have step A through Z mapped out, because if we're all being completely honest, none of us have that many steps planned out ahead of time. Don't let them fool you, okay? It's not realistic. So take the first step, figure things out along the way, and you'll be making progress while you are seeking perfection. Now, nothing's ever going to be 100% perfect, but at least you're trying, okay? At least you're moving. At least you're making progress. And as you make progress, make a big doggone deal about everything you do. Everything. I don't care if it's big or small, because if you don't root for you, nobody else will. All right. So that's what I'm going to leave y'all with today. Episode number 35. Thank y'all for hanging out with me for another show. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to share this with someone. If you know someone that is struggling with unsupportive people, if you know someone that would find value in what we discussed today, then please share this podcast with them. They can also subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher Radio. I'm working to get this back up on SoundCloud. I just kind of have to figure that out because I swap podcast servers. So we're going to see how that works out. But for now, you could definitely get it on your Apple Podcast app, Google Play in the Google Store, and on Stitcher Radio. We're still live and lit on all 3 platforms over there. And like I always ask y'all at the end of the episode, please leave a review, rate this podcast. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to hear. And throughout the week, guys, keep me posted on what's on your table this week and anything you would like for me to include in next week's roundup. And also feel free, guys, to tweet me questions like our listener did in today's show using the hashtag Table Talk with Toddy. As usual, guys, subscribe to my newsletter at NatashaWeston.com, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Table Talk with Toddy podcast. This episode has been brought to you by our sponsor, TotSpot Productions. Be sure to visit NatashaWeston.com to join the conversation, read the blog, and discover more content. If you enjoyed today's show, head over to the Apple Podcast or Google Play app and subscribe, rate, and review. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode. Until next time.